Imagine this. You survive a deadly encounter with one of the most venomous creatures on Earth. Your heart pounds, your body goes numb, and the doctors aren't sure if you'll make it. But you do. You beat the odds. You survive. But the real nightmare is only beginning. Because instead of sympathy, you're met with judgment. Instead of relief, you're haunted by fear. Instead of moving on, you feel trapped by the trauma of the moment. This is the shocking reality that many survivors of deadly animal encounters face. The terror doesn't end when the attack is over. It lingers in ways no one expects. And today we're diving into a story that proves just that. Welcome to Savage Tales, Animal Encounters, the channel where we explore the most harrowing, jaw-dropping and unbelievable true stories of people who come face to face with the wild's deadliest creatures and live to tell the tale. From venomous bites to bone-crushing attacks, we uncover the raw, real and untamed side of nature. Because when humans and animals cross paths, anything can happen. Today, we're bringing you the chilling story of Paz Moreno, a woman who survived the bite of a highly venomous blue-ringed octopus, but found herself battling a whole new kind of trauma after the attack. This isn't just about surviving nature's deadliest. This is about the emotional scars that last long after the wounds heal. But before we dive in, if you love gripping survival stories, shocking real-life encounters, and the untamed power of the natural world, then you need to be part of the Savage Tales family. Smash that like button if you're ready for an unbelievable story. Hit subscribe so you never miss a jaw-dropping tale of survival. Ring that notification bell because you never know when the next savage encounter will drop. Drop a comment below. What's your biggest fear when it comes to the wild? Have you ever had a terrifying animal encounter? We want to hear your stories. Share this video with anyone who loves wild, heart-pounding survival stories. All right, strap in, because this is one savage tale you won't forget. Paz Moreno had always been captivated by the ocean. Ever since she moved to Australia from Chile in 2018, she had embraced the country's beach lifestyle with open arms. Coming from a place where interaction with the ocean wasn't as common, the idea of daily visits to the beach was both thrilling and somewhat surreal. To her, the beach wasn't just a place, it was a way of life. She marveled at the thought of people walking along the shore in the winter, the cool breeze blending with the salty air. The beach became her sanctuary, where she could escape and simply exist. But her relationship with the ocean wasn't only about its beauty. It was also rooted in a deep respect for the creatures that lived beneath its surface. Growing up in Chile, Paz had learned from a young age to be cautious around sea life. While sharks were often seen as the villains of the deep, Paz had a particular reverence for one creature above all: the octopus. More than any other marine animal, the octopus fascinated her. Its intelligence, its elusive nature, and the incredible ability to blend into its surroundings. As a child, she was taught that while these creatures were remarkable, they also required caution. And though she never wanted to encounter one up close, Paz always respected their quiet power. So when she moved to Sydney, the ocean felt like a world both new and familiar. She loved to swim and explore the waters around places like Chinaman's Beach, a tranquil stretch of sand nestled in the upscale suburb of Mossman. The water was warm, the waves were small, and the coastline was peppered with shells and sea creatures. It was the perfect place for a swim. Paz, in fact, had often swum here with her partner Mauricio Quilpatay, just as she had planned to do on that fateful day in March 2023. It was a day like any other. The weather was beautiful, and Paz felt the familiar pull of the ocean calling her name. She and Mauricio had just finished their morning routine, and after a quick breakfast, they decided to take a dip in the clear, inviting waters of Chinaman's Beach. Paz, as usual, eagerly prepared for the swim, slipping into her swimsuit, adjusting her snorkel, and setting out with a sense of calm and excitement. It was a simple plan. A quick swim, a few minutes to feel the cool water against her skin, and then back to shore so Paz could teach her usual Thursday Spanish class. Little did she know this trip to the beach would be unlike any other. As they waded into the shallow waters, Paz was in her element, soaking in the beauty of her surroundings. The water was cool and refreshing, the perfect temperature for a late morning swim. She had always loved the way the ocean felt, like a living thing breathing alongside her. She dipped her head beneath the surface, letting the soft rush of water surround her, and soon noticed something that caught her attention: a small shell lying on the ocean floor. It was an innocent find, something she had seen countless times before, but this time Paz's curiosity took hold. She gently reached down, picked it up, and brought it to the surface to examine it. As she inspected the shell, Paz checked it carefully, knowing that such objects could sometimes harbour a crab or even a snail. But this one seemed empty, so she slipped it into the pocket of her swimsuit and continued swimming. With a light sense of relief, she swam further out, enjoying the cool touch of the water on her skin. Everything felt peaceful, calm, and safe. The beach was quiet, and the rhythm of the ocean was soothing. But that sense of peace didn't last long. The tranquility of the moment was shattered by an unexpected feeling, a sensation of something pinching her. At first, Paz thought it was just an irritation from the water, or perhaps an unnoticed piece of debris brushing against her. But then it happened again, a sharp, sudden pinch that made her wince. Still, it wasn't unbearable. She checked her swimsuit, thinking perhaps there was something inside causing the discomfort, but found nothing. And then a third pinch, a stronger, more persistent tug at her skin. This time, she felt a lump under her swimsuit that wasn't there before. Something was definitely wrong. Her heart started to race as she quickly unzipped the side of her swimsuit, thinking there must have been a sharp shell or something hidden inside. But what she found wasn't a shell. It was the unmistakable bright blue rings of a blue-ringed octopus, its tiny body coiled tightly beneath her swimsuit. A cold rush of realization hit her. Paz had seen videos of the blue-ringed octopus before, particularly a TikTok post about its venomous bite. She froze for a moment, staring at the creature with wide eyes, then quickly turned to Mauricio. Her voice trembled as she said, "Take it off." Her instructions were clear, but the panic was creeping in. Mauricio didn't hesitate for a second. Without thinking, he grabbed the creature, a spherical blob of bright yellow and blue, and flicked it into the sand. That's when the true terror began. As the octopus was flicked from Paz's body and landed on the sand, her mind raced. Was this really happening? The blue-ringed octopus was known for being one of the deadliest creatures in the ocean, and in that moment, all of Paz's previous concerns about the water and sea life paled in comparison to the visceral reality of what she was now facing. Mauricio, sensing the urgency, immediately dialed 000, the Australian emergency number, as Paz stood frozen, trying to process what had just occurred. She could feel the weight of her body beginning to change, the numbness spreading through her limbs, her mouth and her tongue. It started as a strange sensation, like the one you might feel after eating something spicy, but without any of the heat. She felt an odd detachment from her surroundings, as though her body was no longer fully hers. It was a quiet, creeping terror, far more insidious than any physical injury she could have imagined. The world around her seemed to slow down as she struggled to stay focused. Mauricio, ever the protector, immediately sprang into action. He grabbed the octopus, carefully placed it in a bottle of water, and hurried to secure it. Meanwhile, Paz began to feel a deeper sense of dread. The faint numbness she'd felt around her mouth was rapidly spreading. Her legs began to weaken and her breath became shallow. The panic inside her was rising, but she pushed it down, focusing on breathing and staying calm, hoping that somehow she could stave off the worst effects of the venom. Soon, the ambulance arrived, and Paz could feel the weight of reality crashing back in. As the paramedics moved swiftly to assess the situation, one of them flicked the bottle containing the octopus, and with that movement, the creature's iconic blue rings flashed to life once again. Paz's heart skipped a beat. It was no longer a possibility. It was real. She had been bitten by one of the most venomous creatures in the world, and there was no turning back. With a sense of grim realization settling over her, Paz was loaded into the ambulance. Her vision began to blur at the edges, and the tingling numbness spread further. "Call your family," the paramedic said gently, a statement that hit Paz with the full weight of its meaning. She wasn't sure if it was a precaution or a necessity, but the urgency behind the words sank deep into her chest. Inside the ambulance, as the sirens blared in the background, Paz began to feel her respiratory strength weakening. Her heart rate was slowing, and her blood pressure was dropping, but bizarrely she still felt okay, almost detached, like she was floating above her body, watching everything happen. Despite her physical condition deteriorating, she somehow managed to remain remarkably calm, almost as if her mind had shut down in self-preservation. It was only when the paramedics started their assessment of her worsening symptoms that she began to understand the gravity of her situation. Meanwhile, Mauricio remained by her side, keeping a steady grip on her hand. He couldn't shake the feeling of helplessness, watching as Paz's strength ebbed away with each passing minute. He had witnessed her so strong before, so full of life. He couldn't fathom how quickly things had turned. But in that moment he knew there was nothing more he could do but stay close and offer his support. The fear of losing her was overwhelming. At the hospital, things moved even faster. Paz was rushed into the emergency room and doctors and nurses swarmed around her, working frantically to stabilize her. It felt like time was moving at a pace too fast for her mind to fully keep up with. She had no sense of control anymore. The numbing feeling in her limbs intensified as doctors administered treatments, trying to counteract the effects of the venom that was racing through her bloodstream. It was an agonizingly slow process. Her muscles felt weak, her breath shallow, and the ever-present fear that she might lose consciousness hung in the air like a thick fog. During her stay, something strange began to unfold. As the octopus was carefully kept in a water-filled container beside her, it became a strange sort of fascination for the hospital staff. Some of them even took the time to snap photos and selfies with the creature, jokingly calling it Cuddles. Paz found it all surreal and invasive. Here she was, fighting for her life, and yet the very creature that had brought her to this point was now the subject of fascination and even light-heartedness. It felt like the absurdity of the situation was compounded by this bizarre attention. She could barely process it, let alone make sense of it. But one thing was clear: Paz was still here. She was alive, even if only barely. And though Paz was physically recovering from the worst of the venom's effects, the psychological aftermath was just beginning to take hold. It was hard for her to fathom the way people responded to her survival, both in person and through the media. As news of the attack spread, Paz was dismayed by the way people quickly jumped to conclusions, often judgmental, sometimes cruel, and frequently rooted in victim blaming. As someone who had always respected the ocean and its creatures, Paz was left stunned by the assumptions made about her actions. The harsh words stung more than the physical trauma she had endured. In the weeks that followed, Paz found herself haunted by the experience in ways she hadn't anticipated. The ocean that had once been a source of freedom and peace now filled her with a sense of dread. She couldn't return to the water, not right away. The trauma was deeper than the physical injury. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the flashes of blue, the octopus's warning rings, a harbinger of the danger it had brought with it. The sensation of being stung, of her body going numb, replayed like a nightmare in the back of her mind. The emotional toll was more persistent than she had imagined. The trauma wasn't just about the moment of the bite, but about what followed: the overwhelming fear, the shame of being blamed, and the weight of the psychological scars that no one saw. Paz had always been the strong one, the brave one. But in this moment, she realized that surviving the physical attack wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of an entirely new battle. Paz's journey was far from over. She wasn't just fighting to regain her physical strength, she was fighting to reclaim her sense of safety, her trust in the ocean, and her ability to move forward. But every step was a challenge, and for a while it felt as though the ocean might never feel the same. Her story, however, was one of perseverance as she slowly began to heal, not just her body, but her mind. The battle for recovery was a long one, but in time, Paz knew she would find her way back. But not without acknowledging the deep scars that came with surviving an attack like this. Survival is only part of the story. The true healing begins when you find the courage to face what comes after. Thank you so much for joining us today on Savage Tales, Animal Encounters. We hope Paz's incredible story reminded you of the power and unpredictability of the natural world, while showing the resilience of the human spirit in the face of true danger. If you found this video compelling, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps us spread these wild tales to more people like you who share our fascination with the untamed world. Don't forget to leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Have you ever had an animal encounter that left you changed? We'd love to hear your stories and thoughts, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe and ring the notifications bell so you never miss another wild adventure. You won't want to miss the thrilling, real-life animal stories we've got lined up next. As always, remember that the ocean, the wild, and all creatures within it are both beautiful and unpredictable. Stay safe, stay respectful, and stay curious. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Savage Tales, Animal Encounters. Until then, embrace the savage beauty of nature.